You could shoot her one right now, couldn't you?
Well, if I didn't want to lose my my video connection here, I could probably manage that.
But to send her an email, you have to lose your video?
It's possible. I mean, I
Okay.
think it should work, but
Okay, don't worry about it
here
now.
it is, Maxine. Okay, well, I'll do a better job next for the workshop meeting, Maxine.
Thank you.
Okay, first of all, welcome to our two new members, Jason and Tormy, and I'll let Tormy explain what I mean by that as part of the board approvals. So, okay, over to you, Tormy.
Thanks. How many people, raise your hand if you actually viewed the video or watched the live stream from yesterday meeting? One. Okay.
I tried.
Yeah, there was some problems with the voice fading in and out we heard about. So I'm gonna just skip right to here to the meat of this thing. Leslie produced gave us her annual report, and it was extremely well done. She talked about a variety of things, both positive and negative, talked about somewhat of the impact that was taking place because of the virus issue on our revenue, and in it discussed what things were being done to offset that, like applying for the CARES program, which could get us up to $3 million in incremental money that is qualified as a loan or a grant, depending on exactly how the money is used. Talk to the fact that 66 people in the organization have taken voluntary unpaid PTO to help offset some of the expenses, and probably for other reasons that just didn't want to be in this environment. So I would suggest that report is worth visiting because it was really well done. Nikki presented the CMP Advisory Committee report. That one's another one you got to view. She and her team did a fantastic job, and the entire team, including even the CCI representative, Jody Latham, support the report and what was in it. And it talks about a variety of things that have been accomplished, and it talks about things that are put on, I would just basically say, indefinite delay. And like many of the people in the association, the property owners, have had angst over this town center thing. That thing has been shifted to where it's almost non-existent. It's still in it, but it's way on the back burner. Other people have commented that you can't look at a 20 or 30 year horizon for a strategic plan. And if you did, it would probably be unrealistic. They didn't use the example, but if Kodak had a 20 or 30 year strategic plan, they forgot to put in it that Fujitsu came along in iPhones. But its focus is on a 3 to 5 year plan, which is reasonable, okay? But because we changed, this is my editorial, because we change board members so rapidly, like, 2 to 3 every year, it's critical that the board get some plan together that's got some life to it, that multiple people going forward can, in the board, can support. Because you can't change your 3 to 5 or your 1 to 2 year plan every year and never get anything accomplished. You'll just always be floating around. So anyway, I'd say read that report. We did the actual transfer that's done after the audit committee report, after the audit report comes out. So we removed the reserves that were basically sitting there in cash into the capital rollover account. So that would fund the issues that were fell short last year, like some of the stuff that Jason would probably talk about, like culverts and roads and so forth, where money was not spent, but it's been rolled over. There was a big change to protective covenants, but it was more of a cleanup. Mike Badika presented those additions, and they were approved. Not unanimously, but they were approved. We made a bylaw change in Article 9, and Article 9, there was a line in it that listed or a section that listed the duties of the board, and then one final line on that read, all other duties belong to the CEO. Well, that line was taken out, okay? And the reality is, whether that line's in there or not, Leslie's responsibilities don't change, and they're spelled out very specifically in 2 documents, her contract and her job description, and both of those rule regardless of what the bylaws say, unless you want to breach your contract, which I would think would be a pretty poor idea. We approved the open meeting policy, which basically said what I think I talked about at one of the meetings here. And the primary goal is that there will only be one official recording of any meeting. And that's the one that the POA employee or POA hired individuals, like in this case, Larry, does. If people are still welcome to come in and tape, if they so choose, like Cheryl and her husband do sometime, or people can record it on their phone. But the only thing that's official is ours, and that's the one that goes up on the website. I'm not suggesting that anybody's ever modified those recordings or reports, but they surely aren't official. So that was approved. We approved unanimously the Republic Services contract. Thank you, Jason, for saving us $100,000, I think roughly over 3 years or more. Everybody was pleased about that. 2 items that were in new business were moved to current business. The first was policy chapter 7, article 2, standing committees. If you looked at that, it was written in such a way that all the committee members from the board were liaisons. And if you remember right, last month, we approved changing the committee members like myself to participating members. But the language in Article 7 didn't support that. And we also approved, again, not unanimously, the revisions to Chapter 7, Article 3, which is basically talk to what the chairperson's responsibilities are. And for Gail's edification, the thing that he was concerned about, and I was also when we were making these changes, was what influence does the board member that's on a committee now as an acting member have over committee decisions? So I'll read you exactly what's in, there's other things, but this is the critical one in Article 7, Chapter 3. And by the way, I'd suggest all of you read Bylaw 12 and Articles, Policy Chapter 7, both Article 2 and 3 at a minimum. But, and you for sure, Murray, because it talks about your responsibilities in this, and we've cleaned it up and taken a lot of stuff out of it. But what we added was this: to ensure that all committee members understand that the authority of board member directors serving on committees as full members is no way different than any other committee member. Their opinions surrounding any particular subject are theirs alone and do not represent the board director's opinion as a whole. If a committee is making a recommendation to staff or to the board, it would be expected that the committee serving board director would indicate their support or lack of support for the recommendation. But in no circumstances should the board director's opinion alone result in the recommendation not moving forward. Whether recommendations move forward should solely be determined by the majority vote of the committee. The aforementioned should be reinforced with the entire committee on a regular basis. So Gail, I think that you brought that up at the last meeting, and that's the language, maybe the same language I referenced at the meeting. I wrote it. So that's in there.
Yeah, Gail has a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you very much, and that represents it accurately.
Good. And there were a variety of board member comments. I read a long speech that didn't get a lot of positive reaction on the internet, if I've still got it. Oh, we had the audit report. And by the way, it's the 4th year that we've had a clean audit, which I don't believe, I may be wrong, that we ever had a clean audit prior to that. But you give me 3 more minutes, I'll read what I gave as a comment, and then I'll be done. I said, I'd like to personally thank Cindy, Mike, and Buddy for their service to the village as board members. While we didn't always agree on the way to approach issues, we learned to work together for what we believed was in the best interest of the village. I very much respect all 3 of them. It was a difficult 12-month period in the village's history, and the leadership all 3 provided will be even more obvious in the future months and years. Again, I thank all 3 for their services and their commitment to the village. That went over fine. This didn't go over very fine. It's hard to imagine what happened to what the village has become. The way members treat other members is unbelievable. Do we believe that we will attract new residents after reading what is written on social media? The village has created an environment where many staff/employees fear for their job. Does anyone think that this feeling among the staff will make the village a better place to live? I would surely hope not. It has never worked that way in any organization or company where I've been employed. We should try to catch individuals doing the right thing, not individuals doing the wrong thing. We have members calling other members traitors and turncoats, others threatening the lives of board members, past candidates standing in front of the board at board meetings, basically calling the board thieves. We need to ask ourselves what we've become. Outside the POA staff, most others are providing their time for no charge. The most vocal individuals seem seldom, if ever, volunteer for anything. No one volunteers because they're interested in power. They do it to serve the community. We may not agree, but why is it so difficult to act with a little civility? This can be a wonderful place to live, and is a wonderful place to live, but it won't continue if something doesn't change. We need to stop looking at the glass as half empty rather than half full, or the glass will be empty. I'm hopeful that the quality work and relationship can develop quickly between these 3 remaining board members, between the 3 remaining board members and the 4 new board members. And then I read this quote from Charles Swindoll. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude in me is more important than facts. It's more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or do or say. It is more important than appearances, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home, or for that matter, a POA. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we'll embrace for the day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change what is inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is attitude. I'm convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are all in charge of our attitudes. That was my comments. The chairman's award went to someone who couldn't have been more deserving for all the hard work she did, and that was Ella. I mean, she supported all the board members and so many property owners and guiding them through to where to go on certain issues. I thought it was unbelievable. And then Leslie gave a resolution of appreciation to both Mike and Cindy. Then we had a separate meeting after that where, as most of you probably know by now, if you've read Frank Leaming's latest blurb, that the new board chair is Diana, the chair is Lloyd. Leslie's no longer secretary. They put Marcy Rommel in that position, and Liz is no longer treasurer, and they put Dan Allward in that position. So we'll see how that works. And I have no idea, by the way, guys and gals, whether I'll be your representative to this committee come probably the first or second week in March, because all the committee assignments will get voted on as Article 12 states. And so who knows? I can tell you this, though, that Tucker has a big interest in being the representative to this committee. So
Who does?
Tucker,
Yes. Two separate items, okay?
so that's my speech.
No, I gotta set it
Okay,
up.
thank you, Tormy. Gail, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Tormy, very much. The short period of time that I have been on this committee, you've exhibited to me the qualities that we need in a director, and I hope that you are reappointed to this particular committee. And if there's anything that we can do to help that happen, please let us know.
Well, I would hope I was also, because not only have I've learned a ton, but I've so much enjoyed working with all of you and seeing your expertise. It's been really a pleasure.
Yes,
Um,
yes, I have.
I'm not sure what any of you could do, because the new board is gonna, basically, they got control of everything. They got 5 votes, the 4 that got elected and Diana, and they'll make whatever decisions they wanna make.
Well, actually, I guess I can send it out to you sometime, okay?
Was someone else saying something?
Yeah, I think Don's and Drew's cell phones are picking up a whole lot.
Yeah, Maxine has a comment.
Does the committee itself have a say in who is allowed to be on the committee?
Well, they have a say in the non-members of the, let's say, sorry, of the members that aren't the director and or who is appointed, who is a staff person. The answer would be they have a complete say in that. They do the interviewing along with Jason and I think and the board and the director, but ultimately the committee makes that decision. But as it relates to the director, that's a board decision by vote. And as it relates to whether Jason's on a committee or not, is a decision that Leslie makes.
Yeah, Phil.
As far as the new board liaison, we'd hate to lose you, Tormy, because we think we've worked pretty well together. But on the flip side of that, it wouldn't be bad to have one of these new board members come in and try and educate them as to the inner workings of our committee and all the infrastructure projects and things that we're working on, and try and dissuade them from a negative view of what's going on.
Well, first off, I would totally agree with you that there would be value to that. And if it was Tucker, I think that he could add some value because he's got some reasonable level of experience from being a builder. And I don't think any of them, though, by the way, have any negative feeling regarding Jason's organization or this committee. I believe they all view both very positively, which is a good sign.
This was recording, it's already going.
Okay, thank you, Tormy. And Tormy, just a quick question. Will you still be our board member at this meeting next month? Or will the new person be assigned by then? Because next month we will hold elections for new officers.
Well, there's a meeting coming up Monday. When I look at the agenda, it's not clear whether or not any changes will get made next month or not. But
Okay.
to my knowledge, there's intent to have another meeting in early May that may in fact result in, if it doesn't get addressed on Monday, which I'm not saying I have any idea, it may not.
Okay.
It'll probably get addressed, I would say, in the first week or two of May.
Okay, well, I guess I should ask this question first. Is it still the board members' responsibility to run the election for officers?
That hasn't changed.
Okay. All right, so whoever shows up, either you or whoever's in your place next month, will expect to run that election
Well,
for us.
that election's actually in July, isn't it? I mean, sorry, June.
Is it June?
That's when yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I have to read
even though
Article
our
12
meeting-
myself, but I thought it was June.
Even though our monthly meeting falls after the board meeting.
Well, I'll look and see while we're talking.
Okay.
Go ahead and continue
Okay.
without that answer.
Okay. Thanks, Tormy. David?
Tormy, just one very brief follow-up about what you said about attitude. A man named Peter Drucker is author of management and leadership studies. He's the Einstein of leadership. And at the end of his life and career, he was asked one time to sum up what he had learned about the difference between successful organizations and failed organizations. And his response was, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And culture is attitude.
Yeah.
Tormy, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Drew. I'm here as a guest because they didn't have the vote yesterday for putting me on the committee.
No, I thought we did that. I thought we did that vote last month, and it was approved.
No.
Yeah, I thought we had it in the mix too, but when I went back and checked, it hasn't done it. So it's locked in for May. But you're on board, Drew. Speak freely. But you are.
Tormy, are you free to comment on the letter that was written to the employees of the POA?
Has that letter gone out? Jason, have you seen that letter?
When did it go out? Did we get something last
It
week?
would have gone, if it went out, it would have gone out after the board meeting yesterday.
No, I have not gotten a letter.
So, Drew, how did you know about the letter? Because it was mentioned at the board meeting?
The second meeting, that was the first thing. One of the first things when Diana was made chairman, that she stated that they had a letter for the employees, that it would be reviewed by her and the secretary, who's now Marcy. And once it was reviewed and approved, it was going to go out to the employees.
So you're asking me, so I don't believe it's gone out yet, because if it had, Jason would have seen it.
Unless it's an email, I haven't checked emails yet.
To answer your question, no. You say, am I free to comment on it?
Well, not comment. What? I don't want your comment. I want what is in the letter. What does it say?
It talks to reassuring that the employees of the POA realize that the board has a high degree of confidence with them and appreciates the hard work that they do. And they're a critical success factor to all the environment here within the village and the wonderful life we enjoy. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
It's longer than that, but that's summary.
Okay, Jason, you ready for the staff report?
Well, I'd like to ask Tormy a question.
Okay.
And this is curiosity, and you don't have to respond, and it may not be appropriate, but we're set up that we don't really work directly as a staff. I don't really work directly with the board unless I'm assigned to by the CEO. So for example, this letter that's coming from the board, will that go through the CEO and then to the staff, or do you foresee the board, not going through the CEO to the company.
With regard to this letter, is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think it's the intent for that letter to go directly from the board to the entire staff.
Okay.
And the letter has all the board's signature in effect on the bottom. You know, not signature, but it's electronic, obviously, right? And just, I'll make this edification. I think the letter's very well written.
Sounds good. Okay, hey, just for everyone's knowledge, the Zoom meetings are being recorded, audio and video. And so Bob can use this audio for writing up. We still have to write up the minutes of this meeting and submit them to the board, just like normal. But I also have video. And what I'm seeing is these Zoom meetings are getting uploaded to YouTube. So the public, I think, will be able, and maybe you've seen the lakes or the trails, they've already had Zoom committee meetings, and they're uploaded to YouTube for everyone to see. So just want to give you a heads up on that as we proceed forward here a little bit.
Can you hear me, Jason?
Yes, sir.
You're going to send me the recordings, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll give that a shot. But this thing should get uploaded to YouTube as well as a feedback of information. So what I have here on my agenda here is just an overview of the CO report. Did everyone download the CO report from the board meeting, or I'm just going to give a quick overview of it for everyone's and for record here. The first part of our report is talking about our progress with our enterprise goals, and I've got 3 that we're kind of working on here as a public services group. Is the achieving 5% of our culvert repairs identified in a 10-year culvert replacement plan. So we are just now starting to receive bids on a pretty good culvert rehab project, and we'll finish receiving those bids probably sometime next week. And then we'll evaluate those bids and then make a recommendation to the board in May for that project. It'll be a large capital project. We got $500,000 budgeted for this year. And what we need, and that 5% is if you calculate it out, we've got an estimated $8 million, what we think is what we need to spend to rehab all the culverts that are on our radar. So 5% of $8 million is $400,000. So we think if we're spending $500,000, that's greater than $400,000. So we're meeting that enterprise goal with that execution of that project. And then, and Murray, if you kind of monitor the feedback, you can mute anybody or you can mute everyone if you want while I'm speaking. That'll cut out all of the feedback from other folks' microphones.
Okay,
The other thing we have.
Give me 5 seconds, Jason. Let me mute everyone and open you back up.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay, we're cooking then. You should have good quality audio here. By May, we're supposed to present a timber management strategy that improves current property owner views, achieve community-wide fire safety, and supports overall forest health. We hired a forestry manager a month or 2 ago, Mr. Todd Knowles. He was already on staff, has a lot of experience working with clearing trees and working with the public, has really good personality skills. And we've already met with the Arkansas Forestry Commission. We've met with one forestry consultant, and we are getting feedback from the fire department, police department, our agronomist, Gary Myers, who's with Golf. And we're getting feedback, and we've got about a 70% complete draft of what we're calling a forestry strategic plan. And think of it as a conceptual plan. This is the first thing that kind of identifies all our needs and also identifies where we need to go get more expertise in our plan. So we'll do as much detail as we can staff-wise, identifying our goals, identifying the needs, identifying the places that we need to go. And then we'll start this process and add to it a level of detail if we can get budgeted for some consulting fees for next year. And we'll get budgeted for capital, buying equipment that will allow us to accomplish those 3 goals. Improving the views. You know, some of these homes have trees grown up now and they've lost their view, they've lost their value. Improving fire-wise, improving the safety. You know, if there's some things we can do around our common properties to protect people's homes in case of a forest fire or just fires, trail breaks, fire breaks, things like that. And the health and safety of our forests. So if we go in there and we do plan thinnings, if we do analysis of the tree's health, we can also manage diseases and things like that. So we can try to have some revenue, but mainly just keeping the asset that we have healthy and responsible in that area. And in the area of safety, you've noticed in the past year, we have started cutting back our vegetation away from our right-of-ways at the intersections, at the golf cart crossings, and we're trying to improve that safety aspect that's totally related to removing vegetation, you know, improving those site views where people can see the cars coming better. And so this is a pretty wide scope of approach here pertaining to vegetation and trees and forestry here in the village. And as I get that draft plan a little bit more finalized, at some point in time, I'll submit it to you for a final review and things like that as well. But we fully expect for this strategic plan to evolve into a master plan where I've got professional consultants that have gone out there and inventoried our forest. We may, staff-wise, may provide all that data, but I'm going to hire an expert to tell us where he thinks we need to start thinning first, the value of what we have, and things we need to do on a very strategic professional level as far as managing our forest, in addition to those other goals. The other one that we have going, enterprise goals, is by June, we're supposed to present a facility condition and needs strategy to the board for 2021 budgeting. And so this is Mike Sikora in the building maintenance division has already led his staff and some volunteers. We were going to involve y'all, but because of this COVID-19 thing, we practicing social distancing for just absolutely necessary staff members. And they're just about done with inventorying most of the buildings here in the village. And we've also tried to include like golf halfway houses, our pump buildings, water and sewer facilities. There's an old water treatment plant on the hill off of Macero that I still think there is some usage available still in that building. And of course it needs a roof just to be a storage building. Those are some things that we are bringing into the mix and evaluating. And that's that stage of that project is the data is getting collected and it's fixing to go in with Liz and Stephanie, and they're going to populate a database that we'll be able to analyze and manipulate and use for strategic planning. And I'm gonna move on, and then we can ask questions at the very end. Project updates, our water and wastewater treatment plants. The contractor is at Mill Creek today, and they are digging up and doing this phase 2 and phase 3 improvements. If you recall, both wastewater treatment plants are gonna have some improvements at Mill Creek. We've got a new UV disinfection system, and we've got a new filter going in there. At Cedar Creek, we've got a new clarifier drive going in, and that was mainly the big thing there is a new clarifier drive over at the Cedar Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant. So that is going. I was pleased to see that the money is rolled over from last year into this year, because this project started last year and it's still it won't be finished till this year. So the financial report that your CFO put out shows that rollover money is going to be there to cover all that. Water meter study, we're still experimenting with all our water meters. Our staff are actually using the drive-by meters that we have installed and not reading them. They drive by, they collect the data, they sit down at a computer, and then they plug in that data into their handhelds, and it's saving them a lot of time. And we've already seen that in the aspects of it. We're still, we're going to try to make a decision on how to approach that project a little bit further and do a business plan with that. I don't think it's the right time yet, maybe this year, to do this, but we're very close. hopefully to making a decision on how we would expand that fast or slow over many phases. Lake dam maintenance, we're still doing a lot of repairs on the Granada and Estrella spillways. Maybe you've seen some of that already. Let's see, and we just got one more letter back from the NRC covering a few items. Over at Lake Peneda, that spillway has some concrete holes in its spillway structure that are being patched just as soon as the water stops flowing over the spillway there. And that spillway will be squared away. We got a contractor on standby. Just as soon as the water stops flowing, he's going to go in there and he's going to concrete patch those holes. And that'll keep the water inside the spillway and not draining down the side of the dam, which is causing a little bit of erosion. Nothing major, but that's ongoing. Street maintenance, staff is continuing to, well, they're finishing up their crack sealing as we speak, and they're transitioning to mowing. Maybe you've seen that they've already started mowing on DeSoto Boulevard. And we still have a contractor who's out there crack sealing quite a bit. He's still ongoing in that area. Building maintenance, they have really made a lot of headway on their replacing the R22 unit, air conditioner units here in the village. They did one last month in March. And to date, there's only 23 R22 refrigerant air conditioning units left here in the village to replace. So we're kind of on track for that. COVID-19, none of our staff have caught COVID-19 virus. We've had a few go get tested, but after 3 days, they all came back to work. It was usually a sinus related to causing a flu or an infection or something like that. So we've been pretty healthy, and maybe you've noticed we wear masks now when we're doubled up in a vehicle. Anytime we get within 6 feet of each other, we try to don our masks out of courtesy to our fellow workers and protect them from us, and they're protecting themselves from us as well. And so we've kicked that up, and that's going to be ongoing until this scales down in the future. Budgeted actions, Murray, the Ribera Lane water replacement is officially complete. You are drinking water out of that new water line. You can answer, let me know if the flavor has improved or not on there. But that was an interesting project in that we put a casing all the way down that road and then slipped the water line in it. So if there is ever a leak, we won't be digging up the road in the future, because especially I think that road is being scheduled to have some improvements to it in the new future. So when those improvements are done, we won't have to tear up the road to fix a water line there. We'll just yank it all out and put a new one in. It's real simple.
Yeah, the neighbors are very happy, Jason. That was a well done job.
Okay, well, I know it was a little bit inconvenience, but we're glad everyone is pleased with that. And so after we get that road improvement, it should last, and it shouldn't be potholed up, hopefully, anymore due to water leaks. The staff is still doing small culvert replacements. We're still working with a contractor doing some small milling and asphalt patching that is still ongoing. We have a bid out again for another set of overlay and milling. And so what you're going to see this year is just a lot of asphalt, large patch overlay, they'll go in there and they'll mill out a big section, and they'll bring in a paving machine here and lay that big patch in nicely. You're going to see a lot of that more than probably anything else, along with crack sealing. We're at the point now where we're opting not to do any microsurfacing and just doing a whole lot more asphalt milling and patching. We still got that bump on Fresno Road. Still got a lot of culvert settlement areas that we're wanting to patch and smooth out and remove bumps as much as possible. And so that's kind of staff driven and a small contractor. And that's the approach we're having a lot this year until we kind of find out how, if any, of the rollover monies are going to become available to be spent this year. If you read the financial report, there was a rollover report that was approved by the budget yesterday, the reserve and capital rollover. You ought to read that report that was put out to the board yesterday. There's a big list of capital rollover items on the last page that list a lot of the projects I just talked about, like the wastewater treatment plant, the VFD structure out there, Lake Lago. It's all done and running great. The water emergency connection at the Balboa Gate. That one is kind of, we have all the materials warehoused here in the village. And we got state approval. We're just kind of waiting to pull the trigger. As you might recall, there's a lot of Cooper properties for sale. And we had approached Cooper several times to see if they would allow us to put the water line on the backside of their property instead of along Ponce de Leon at the Balboa Gate entrance. You know, it's going to be right next to the road. People are going to see it. It's going to be a lot of trees going to be removed. And I've been trying to see if we could get it moved to the back of the property where we just put it right along a power line. Well, that property I saw had a sold sign on it yesterday. And maybe you've seen that too. Well, I want to call that property owner and see maybe there's a new attitude. Maybe I can work, maybe we can work with those folks and move that water line interconnection to the back side of the property. You know, if we can't, we're going to move forward this year with installing that 12-inch line and have that emergency connection done by the end of this year. That's basically it. We're just, you know, as far as the regulatory items go, we're still working with the ANRC on getting all our dams in pretty good shape. If you've walked them lately, you know, all the burning and the bush hogging that we did last year and some of the wild seed planting that we've done, you might see a little more greener grass, a little more wildflowers than what we see in the past. Hopefully we'll see less trees and sumac and briars over time. That'll get removed as we manage those slopes better. But that's my report for today. That's kind of where we're at. I'm open to answer questions if you want to unmute everybody, Murray.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jason. Tormy?
I want to answer your question that you asked before that I said I would look up. If you look in Article 12, Section 5, which is titled Role of Board and Staff Committee Members, and then look under Section 5A, Responsibility of Board Committee Members, and go down to the fourth item, that reads to conduct the election of committee leadership in June of each year. So whoever the board member is, they should be handling the election for the next chair and vice chair.
Okay, we'll wait for June then. Thank you, Tormy. Any other comments or questions for Jason on the staff report? Yeah, Phil.
On the rollover, did we get all of the 400,000 that was carryover from last year, or just a part?
It may be a little hard to explain. On the non-utility capital rollover, the list that pertains, let me go down that list here. Crack seal project was in progress, and 154,000 is rolled over, and that's ongoing. Milling and overlay project is in project. There's $81,000 there that is rolled over, and it's almost used up, and we're fixing to start a new batch of milling and overlay. That was it that kind of related to the to streets. There is another $900 and something thousand, $917,110 that was listed to a weight recommendation during 2021 budget process for additional identified projects that can be addressed with the remaining $917,110. So I'm going to talk with the CFO about that, because we had talked about, you know, last year we bumped the $450,000 for microsurfacing into the 2020 budget, and that became part of the funding for it. And we just, and Ron, we've just decided maybe not to do the microsurfacing at this point and just do more asphalt milling and overlay patching with a laydown machine. We think that'll be a little better bang for the buck this year. And then there's another 500,000 that was for culverts last year that could have gotten rolled over into this year. And that part right there, I'm trying to find out, did that actually, is that going to be additional extra money that we can go after and blend with this current culvert project? Or is it actually the funding for this year's culvert project? It's a little, I'm sorry to say, I don't want to say either way, because I need to talk with the CFO and get clarification on that, how the funding is intended to be rolled over into this year.
Okay, Bob,
Jason, this is Drew.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you're aware, but at the second meeting yesterday, Diana asked and requested that a new budget be prepared from June till the end of the year, a revised budget based on the situations that are happening right now. So a lot of these things could possibly be changed before you know it.
Oh, you know, and everyone needs to be kind of have that mindset, Drew. You're so right. I don't know how much they said during the board meeting yesterday, but there is a huge amount of lost revenue that, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't buy any more capital and we hold off on some of these major projects until we have that budget revised and we know what we're going to do.
Tormy,
Believe the number that we think was in lost, will be lost revenue is in the $1.9 million area.
I heard that at the meeting yesterday. 1.9 million's got to come from somewhere, and so
Well,
I'm already talking on how we
but
might go the trim.
if the board, this is my understanding, if the board revises the budget, they really don't revise it by department. That's Leslie's responsibility. If they say, hey, the budget's got $1.9 million too much money in it, it's her job to figure out where it needs to come from. And there's a variety of places. Is it shared? Does it all come out of one place, But it's her job to manage to that budget.
And I've already submitted several recommended options on things that we could hold on to help with that. We have a fairly big budget here in public services, and so we have to be, and we've always stepped up to help out in budget situations, and we always figure out how to squeeze blood out of the tournament and get as much as we can done and try to stay ahead of any catastrophic issues.
okay, we ready to move on to current business? Bob, anything interesting from the traffic report?
Bob's
Hang on,
muted.
let me unmute you. There you go.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Due to not being basically allowed into the police department for non-essential business, I didn't do a report this month.
Okay.
I may not do a report for April, depending on where we're asked to stay out of. At any rate, when I finally get around to doing the reports, I will do the individual monthly reports and then a consensus of those months on my annual report. So you'll get those as soon as I get them.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Bob. Raise your hand if anyone has any specific updates to the task list. Jason did a pretty good job hitting the highest priorities, but if there are others, please raise your hand and we'll hear those. Okay, any new business? Okay, committee member comments. Let's start with you, Bob.
No comment.
None? Okay. How about David has none? Gail? Hang on. Somebody's got to unmute you. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
All right. Just a question. On the 50-year anniversary plans that we had for this year, has anything been discussed on the board or anywhere else about just delaying those to the last half of the year or even planning next year for our 50-year anniversary on the 51st year? Does anybody know?
No. Hang on, Tormy. Okay, go ahead.
I'm not aware of any board discussion that has taken place to date regarding that issue. So, and I haven't even heard someone, float the idea. So that doesn't say that it won't, that couldn't happen though.
Bob, were you swatting a fly or did you raise your, there you go.
Yeah, I was invited to the 50 years anniversary celebration luncheon. That's been, as far as I know, as far as I can remember, that has been done away with. I was also volunteering for the 50 year celebration committee to assist at some of the other events, and they've all been canceled. And as of this date, there's been no information on moving those to next year.
Yeah, maybe I misspoke. Clearly Bob's correct. A lot of those events at minimally have been delayed, but I don't think that there's been a decision. There hasn't been a decision when to restart those events, or for that matter, there hasn't been a discussion with the board on that subject. But I think Leslie has sent out more than one communication on the issue of the current delays.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have a 51st anniversary.
Could be. Don Draper, do you have anything? Any comments?
Do you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Don.
Okay, the only thing I have is I noticed, I think Jason needs to reiterate to his supervisor of roads that I keep noticing upgrades all over the place. In fact, a couple of curves I know, a curve I noticed being now, a tight curve is now marked all the way around with signs that you pick up. So that's been added. And I keep seeing fixes on roads that have been sitting there for quite a while. Okay, they're all of a sudden they're fixed. So he needs to be congratulated because things are starting to show again and again. I hear things happening, but now I can see them. Okay, and I think the public's reacting the same way. Okay, you're getting a real good image over in that area. And that's about all I got. Okay.
Thanks, Don. That's really good feedback.
Okay, Drew, any comments?
Well, I just want to apologize. My computer isn't Zoom capable. I don't have a camera on it, so and I don't have a smartphone, so I'm talking over my regular phone. And I look forward to working with the committee again after a few years of absence.
Yeah, we look forward to having you, and please, consider yourself a member. Even we'll consider you a member even before the board votes. We have the authority to include anybody as an ad hoc member, so welcome aboard. Jason?
Yeah, hey, Drew, I just want to say, if you have a computer that has internet, you can still log in and see the video. You can see us, and then you can call in using your phone for the audio.
Yeah, I did that at the last meeting. I could see you, but I had to use my telephone for communication.
Yeah, you can do that. Okay.
You can buy a camera for about 35 to 40 bucks that'll plug into a USB port on your computer and give you both the picture and the audio. For what it's worth, I just bought one for the computer I have downstairs, although they all come from China, so the delivery's God knows when.
Okay, Phil, over to you. Comments?
Yeah, Jason, there's a number of things that we've talked about over the years, and I'll just kind of run through them real quick, and you can comment when I get through this list. Well, first of all, welcome back, Drew. Glad to have you back. Number one, Madera, we've talked about the intersection Maderas and DeSoto, and we still need to get information so we can check the site distance and figure out how to cut that down. Number two, I've had requests from next door Balboa to do whatever we can at the intersection of DeSoto with Arkansas Route 5. And so sometime maybe in May, we'll try and get committee members to go out and help count traffic, unless you think we're wasting our time, but I'd rather have counts to send to, you know, to justify the request to send to the DOT to actually have them go out and count it as well. We've talked, you know, a year or two ago about widening the road into Waypoint. I don't know if that's just kind of on hold to never be done, or if we're going to be looking at that. Terry Otago came to the meeting a couple of months ago, and I went out and looked at Hartura, there by Hartura Place. You know, the shoulder drop off is probably 5 to 6 inches in about 100 to 200 foot stretch there, and we really need to get some aggregated shoulder in there to minimize the impact of somebody that drives off the edge of the road. And then hopefully we've got Agua Vista Lane on the list to be inspected by staff, because that roadway is really falling apart. We've talked about the intersection of Cortez, De La Vega, and Menorca, and maybe a mini roundabout, and we've really not done anything on that. And then the last thing would be the culvert onto DeSoto and the Diamante Pond. And can you tell me, are we taking 2 different bids, one with total removal and replacement, and one with you know, just slip lining that and repairing the roadway?
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
You want me to respond right now, Murray?
Yes, please, Jason. Go ahead.
On the Diamante and DeSoto one, staff has a plan to go in there if we have to and replace it ourselves, and we think we can do that for around $125,000. Rent the equipment, take it all out, put it in pretty quick. I think staff could do that in a week. We're pretty good at it now. But we're about to get bids in, and I kind of want to see what the bids are from the contractors and the materials that they're going to use. Because we are talking about 2 options: complete, dig it up and replace it, and the other one is slipping it and then replacing the top on it. And those are all in the bids. We just want to kind of see how that thing turns out. We also have some large 8-foot by 20-foot, 1.25 or 1.5 inch steel plates reserved on standby in case we see that movement get to a point where we're starting to bottom out there. We're that close, about ready to put steel plates over that hump area to protect that until we get, you know, the construction phase, get into the construction phase if we need to. So those are the contingencies we have on board.
If we remove and replace that, what's the option for detour routes?
Not a good one. It's almost there's a very long one detour. We could try to do it where you always keep one side open, and that's a possible. That's what we would try to do first, because you can go guardrail to guardrail and create a space for cars to pass by and replace over half of the pipe in one phase, and then flip it, and then you're dealing with a smaller length on the second phase of the pipe replacement. So we could do that, or if we can just shut it down and blow and go, I think it would be the least inconvenience. And now, you know, with the traffic and everyone kind of slowed down a little bit, it's probably a good time to do this. So we got all that on the sheet that we're looking at right now.
I guess your only options would either be going to Balboa Gate and coming in, or maybe even Goose Pond Road, but nobody's got entrance cards for that.
Yeah, you almost got to go all the way over to Balearic and then come around the lake. It's basically, that's basically it. You go down Ponce to Balearic and come back around. You know, it's just a big detour for a lot of folks.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Bob, you have something? Hang on, Bob. I got to get you unmuted here. There we go.
I think it's blue
I
paint.
do touch on this thing from next door and Highway 5, what that request is.
Is that's Phil's response? Is it about a possible signalization there or something?
Right. That's what they're asking for, signals there. And You know, I doubt that it's gonna happen because there's no signals between here and basically Benton until you actually get into almost to the, I-30 area. And there's other roadways that carry a lot of traffic. Fox Pass Road has a lot of traffic on it. There's no signals down there. And there's certainly nothing at the intersection of 5 and 7, although that's going to become a roundabout. So I don't think that the DOT is going to really view that as viable for signals. But if we do everything we can, then we've done our due diligence. And I would like to know what the traffic numbers are before I would request the DOT to spend their time and go out and look at it.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead, Bob.
I missed it. We're talking about what intersection? Eastgate?
Eastgate.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
Hang on, David. Give me a second to find. Okay.
Jason, briefly back on the Diamante Bridge, and you were talking about detours, and you just mentioned what the detour would be sort of around the south side. Would there also be a detour on the north side?
There's nothing. At Diamante, they're separated. Between the first Diamante entrance and Maderas, there's no roads that connect that. I wanted to also mention, if everybody takes a look at the Friday Digest, last Friday we had put in we've got the new public services button for information and our kind of first communication thing that we'll be putting in and doing monthly updates. And that was your idea. That was the committee's idea. And so if there are topics that y'all want to address, topics that you see that are, FL is bringing up, or the next door stuff, or build this great question and answer. I think David was talking about building a nice question and answer part of that, or a link to the website, so we don't get too much busy there. Start writing that stuff down and sending and reminding us to start working on those items. I still got all the email suggestions. I've assigned Vicky to process that and start this communication to the public. And this is I think it's a great idea. We've got a great platform here to do it by, and ready for y'all's smart and wise and mature responses, to the.
How about 2 out of 3, Jason?
Okay.
Go ahead.
One last follow-up about the bridge. So people that live east of the Diamante Bridge and they need to go west from there, then they would just have to go out the east gate, down to Balboa, and then back in and around Balearic. Is that correct?
You can take Ponce de Leon. You can take, instead of going all the way out, you can take a right at Ponce de Leon and then go down to the then take a right on Balearic and go around.
Well, the bridge is before you get to Ponce, so you would not be able to get to Ponce.
Oh, okay. If you're on the west side,
if you're east of there.
If you are east of it, you got to go back to Ponce, and so you're wanting to go west, you got to go all the way back to Ponce, I believe, and find a way to get over to Balearic to get around. That's however you want to do it. Unless y'all know some other shortcuts to get to Balearic.
Jason, I think you're missing the point. I live on Granada Golf Course, or if I lived in the Maderas Gardens and I wanted to go to the west end, I couldn't get there by getting to Ponce. I would have to do just what David says. I'd have to go out the east gate and go around.
Well, I mean, you could, but wouldn't it be shorter to take Ponce over to Balearic and come and take Balearic?
I can't get to. There's no way I could get to Ponce.
If you're already east of Diamante. You're closer to Highway 5.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Ponce is west of there. You're right.
yeah.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right.
maybe it was more than 2 out of 3, David. Good job.
No, I still, I still get lost here in the village.
I know, I get east and west confused all the time for some reason.
You're absolutely right. I know what you're saying now. Yeah,
Okay.
it's the secret is getting over to Balearic or going completely around.
David, don't worry about it. I just ordered a helicopter. We can go anywhere we want.
Board member privilege. Okay.
David's got his hand up.
Maxine, any comments from the public perspective?
Yes, yes. 3 things. With this virus and people reducing their hours, what impact is it going to have on the projects that are ongoing where you have anticipated completion dates, but not all the people available to do the work?
For example, the pool project. We have not missed a beat there. And as a matter of fact, and it was some of the employees that, like food and beverage employees and other places that have shut down, we've reassigned some of those employees to come over there and help out with other projects, such as the pool. We're fixing to get some of the painters from the pool to go help paint at the water treatment plant, the hand railing and things like that. So we're definitely repurposing, and it's kind of a blessing, to get this opportunity to get a couple of projects that where our own staff don't have time to take care of these little things. Now we're getting a chance to kind of address some of the little things that we need to get to.
Can the pool completion date be pushed out in response to what's going on with the virus?
Well, there's only so much left to do there. It's really just landscaping. The pool is operational now. It's really just landscaping around the outside of it that we're finishing up in the parking lot.
Okay, different question. Is there anything going on with create a signage policy?
I know I'm wanting to pick this back up again about some of the traffic control signs and church signs and subdivision signs and informational signs. That is fixing to come back up, and I'm working with permitting and inspection group on that. I'm not in any hurry to stir that pot yet, but we are. That is on my radar to address.
And the third thing, if somebody else represents the board at this committee, is it appropriate for Tormy to be an observer just like me?
I mean, at that point, we're all the committee members on the same level. I'm a committee member, the board liaisons committee member, and the public at any of the open meetings are welcome to join in and observe.
That's it.
Bob's got to.
Okay, Bob. Thank you, Maxine.
I think it would be appropriate for,
Whoop.
You just got muted, Bob. Okay, go ahead again.
Oh, hit the wrong one.
okay, I'm up. Yeah, I think it would be appropriate for whoever the board member is assigned to our committee to do the board reports, because they'll have to be at the board meetings.
Well,
And
yeah, I don't think that's what necessarily, Bob, what Maxine was saying. I think she was saying, could I come as a guest to these meetings? And I believe any board member can come in as a guest to any committee meeting if they so chose.
Oh, yeah, I didn't understand that part of the question. Sorry.
I think board members are actually encouraged to attend as many committee meetings as they can. Yeah.
That's true.
That didn't happen, though.
Okay, very good. I think that concludes our meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, very good. Thank you all for taking the time and calling in. And I apologize for the clumsy use of the mute button, but I'll hopefully we don't have to do this very many more months. And I hope to be better at it next time. So thanks again.
Just a question
Good to
about,
see good to see
Can I ask
everybody.
I had a question about,
Tormy,
Yes,
Tormy,
yes.
Go ahead.
is
Bruce.
Monday's meeting going to be televised on YouTube?
I believe so.
Okay.
What meeting?
There's a
There's a-
special board meeting on Monday,
At 2:00.
at 2:00,
Is that
some relatively interesting issues.
a private meeting or no?
Say that again?
Is that a confidential meeting of the board?
No, it's just a special meeting.
Then it should be
It's not an
televised.
executive.
Should-
it's not
Special
an
meeting should
executive
be
session.
public.
Yeah, just a second. The agenda, have you seen the agenda, Drew?
I heard, yes, I have.
So the agenda says to discuss committee and related matters, to review the possibility to revise job descriptions of officers, to discuss the necessity of a retreat as we now are meeting with 2 discussion sessions each month, plus our regular board meeting, to direct the treasurer to prepare with the help of the finance committee a restated budget covering the period from July 1st through December 31st. That's the agenda.
Right.
Unless it comes out modified, the way special meetings work, that's all that can be on the agenda.
Well, then it's
Right.
public. Should be public, right?
Yep.
Okay, the meeting's adjourned again. Goodbye, everyone.